Hello, possums. Sorry I'm a bit late with this video, but I've been doing a lot of collaborations and also family commitments. They don't call it the F word for nothing, do they really? But here I am and here you are. So Lou, let's dive in. I had pages of news notes and they get made redundant on a 24-hour basis because things keep changing. So starting with Zuckerberg, who went and bent the knee at Mar-a-Lago and came away, and he actually now he's embraced a complete lack of control on Facebook, Meta, whatever it is at the moment, particularly in relation to the LGBTQI community. Like they keep targeting the most vulnerable communities. Are we not sick of bullies? But also, what is wrong with these men who are phenomenally wealthy, who make money in their sleep, and yet it must be feeding the hungry heart? It's never enough. It's never enough because they're so shallow, a root of compassion and even intelligence can't take hold. It's just this mindless quest. Insane. But what I wanted to start on today was you've got to laugh with this stuff, really, because if you didn't, you'd hit the floor, wouldn't you? In a weeping heap, in the fetal position, because it's so crazy. So we've got to have a laugh. But anyway, the Yeti's new IRS pick, what's his name? Billy Long. He's an auctioneer and a poker player, and he's being put in charge of the IRS. It is such a bad joke, isn't it? Astounding. RFK Jr. wants his daughter-in-law to have some huge job at the CIA. We had the vision this week of a Republican from, I think, West Virginia who got really drunk, was waving around assault weapons, plural, freaking out his own kids and the neighborhood, his wife ringing 911, and he missed his own swearing in. And the caliber of people is just breathtaking. They're not just ideologically different or hyper Christian or this, that, and the other. It's the sheer hypocrisy. 11, 11 Fox anchors and commentators in there. Absolutely staggering. Do you know what it reminds me of? The famous story of the Emperor Caligula, who named his horse a consul. That's what's happening. And they're queuing up on their knees to kiss this guy's sandals, you know? Yeah. Okay, so my first question is, the Dems have said they're not going to help out the GOP going forward. Hope so. But my question is, will the rhinos, that handful of people who are the old school conservatives, will they stand up to some of these appointments or not? Because it's them who have to, really. So will the rhinos, God, who would have thought we'd have to depend on rhinos? As if we haven't got our hands full with the Yeti. But anyway, will the rhinos stand up to some of these really mad, bad, and ugly appointments? What's going to happen with that? Let's have a look. Oh, sloppy shuffling. Okay. Oh my goodness. We kick off with the tower. Mhm. Oh, seriously? Let's pull one more. They will have to do something. Okay, these cards, all jokes aside, actually taking my breath away. As I said, it starts with the tower. Now, the tower needn't be a radically terrible card. We often, well, we all experience tower moments in different ways, and often they're our biggest learning opportunities. But in this case, it's the more traditional interpretation. The lid is blowing off this edifice and artifice. Hierophant, government law and order, but the overriding method or meaning of the Hierophant is about our social conventions. And what this era of the Yeti has shown, and I blame Newt Gingrich, he was the first one to trash talk, you know, in government. But all the things that we thought were solid are under threat with these people. It is a time of immense confusion and not just confusing for us. I think it's confusing for the rhinos. They still are afraid of their own voters, and so they're very confused how to try and hold the semblance of American democracy together. It is under serious threat. The Yeti under the hooves here, but this is probably Elon as the Grim Reaper. Who knows? I did draw an extra card because those cards were so. People, this is reaching across the aisle. The only way through all this chaos and destruction is to make connections. And that's, I think, connections on all levels within your neighborhood, within your broader community, if it's online, being part of joining with other people. It is so important in this crazy time. And for those of you in the USA, please don't feel you're alone because this is a global phenomenon. However, now with the Yeti at the helm and this mad talk about Panama and Canada and stuff, it's actually throwing people together. And I'll look at that. That's one of the other ones. So, um, these bad appointments, as I was saying with that card, I think some will be stopped, most won't. That's my takeaway from that. Okay, Biden pushed through a new legislation this week, which got no fanfare. I read it on page 16 of something. It's really important. It's a law that he's just pushed through as he's leaving so that your medical debt cannot be tied to your credit card rating, because that is a real issue for you guys who don't have universal health care. I don't know how you actually manage your lives. I seriously don't. Healthcare permeates every other issue. Like, oh my God. Now, back to the muskrat for a minute, because let's face it, he's very hard to avoid. So not only is he pushing the neo-fascist party in Germany, be aware, be very aware, he is doing the same in the UK. So Nigel Farage, who I mistakenly thought was one of the worst five men in the world, I was wrong. There are worse. He's not even pushing Nigel Farage. He is pushing, Elon is pushing for Tommy Robinson, not his real name, we won't go there, currently in jail for contempt on something. He's an arch racist, could be a clan dragon if he lived in another country, like the worst of the worst. Elon is supporting him to back the third party in the UK. I mean, there's no believing this. Now, no one could rein in the Yeti. Can anybody rein in Elon? And this is a really important question because it's global. Brazil is the only country that I know of who's had the cojones to say, with X monitoring, knowing full well most young people can get around any firewall or anything, but they made the statement, and that's a still ongoing court case. But here's what I wanted to talk to you about. A retired general said this week, how the hell did we get here? And by that, he went on to say, Musk is building rockets and controlling communications. We've got Space Command and NASA, and now Washington has given all that power and influence to a private company, a one-man company. How did it happen? Is there any way to stop at least the worst excesses? Let's have a look. Um, just so you know, Elon has received 380 billion from the UK for doing this communication stuff. Italy, the woman from Italy who's the head of the Brotherhood, don't go there, she's right wing, 1.6 billion to Elon to do Italy's security satellite. This is insane. And it's being spoken about as if it's just another acquisition. Here's the richest man in the world, and he just got this tender for something. No, you add them up. And he's controlling the lot. It's staggering, absolutely staggering. So let's have a look, because my last video was, I really don't think Elon, with all the power, influence, connections in the world, I don't think he's looking that snappy. Let's just have a look at Elon. And he doesn't seem to share this power, even with let's just go out there. What's going to happen with Elon the next 4 or 5 years? Let's go forward. Let's get ourselves out of now. Go further forward. All right. So going forward, what I think from this, he'll continue to steal power, influence, infrastructure, because that's how I look at it, from governments. This line from governments. Okay, I digress. If you're new to this channel, I digress a lot. What's happening is he is part of a bigger push, which is who needs government? Just run a country like a business, easy peasy, and we don't need government. This started really with Ronald Reagan, small government. No, let's just back up. After the Second World War, how did most Western countries rebuild and prosper? There was a time of big government, which gave people job security and infrastructure and so forth. Since everything was privatized, none of that infrastructure has been touched, which is why Biden and the Dems wanted a big new infrastructure program. And yes, a few things have been done here and there, but it was just getting going. So my point is, they're pushing this line. Don't need the Hierophant. Don't need the government. Small government works for the rich, so you might be rich one day, so you could vote for the rich guys, right? So they're actually attacking the foundations of government, and this is Elon's reading. He's working very hard at that. The problem for Elon is no one likes the man. This is arguing in a circle. And I think he's starting to go round in a circle. It's like, what happens when you do buy the biggest house on the hill? What happens when you do buy the neighborhood? What happens if you do pull off buying a country because the Yeti hasn't got the wherewithal to buy a new pair of shoes himself? He sells everything, like people are conflicted about Elon. Some respect him, if nothing else, because they associate wealth, uber wealth, we're talking. We're not talking people who are just comfortably off. Associate uber wealth with genius and skill. I think it's my Irish Republican nature. I'm always suspicious of the uber wealthy. And the problem is people don't like him. I will put up a link on this video in the comments, and it's talking to Brits in the street what they think about Elon, and it's really interesting. Okay, the problem for him is people don't like him, and he can't cope with that. This is the Two of Cups, which is about respect. He can't actually, he can buy respect short term. Everyone's going to, defer, but over time, he's making a big mistake. And the great emperors and sultans and kings knew this, right? If you're that special, you have to keep some mystique. So look what's happened to the royal family since the mystique's gone. You've got Harry and Meghan, and then the book and the tell-all, and take warts and all takes the mystique away, and it siphons off the power ultimately. And he will have no respect. That's what he's craving, and that's the one thing he can't have. Isn't it interesting? So I think it will start to happen that he's going to become less popular. And I think this is also personal. I said in the last video, I think the ex-wives are going to start talking. The kids are getting older. He's still got scramblers. He'll go on to have another half a dozen kids because he thinks you can buy genius and good looks. And he couldn't be more wrong. So I don't see him going broke. I think he will lose money because he's not that good. He's like the Yeti. He's just profoundly lucky. He's a vulture capitalist, bigger scale than the Yeti, and he's pulled off some big coups that were always done by other people. So you can't keep going. And there'll be someone else who'll jump over him as the richest guy in the world. And then he'll start losing more. If you're not the richest, you're just one of the rich guys. You know what I mean? Okay, so let me have a look here. Oh, I want to look at what's happening is because the Yeti is suddenly deciding he's this imperialist superpower, and he just has ideas in the night. And we'll buy this country and we'll invade that country. It's actually fully scary. But the upside is it's pushing people into stronger alliances together. There's just been some very strong statements from the head of NATO this week. I think we're going to see more and more of that. The BRICS countries, which started as Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, expanded to include another 20 odd countries before all this kicked off. Well, now they're highly motivated. You to bond together and start actually putting into place, bypassing the US and doing their own trade agreements. China's currency, even though China's got its own issues, economically, the boom's over and it's trying to sort out a lot of political issues. Nonetheless, its currency has been used for the last 15 or 20 years instead of the petrodollar. That was reinforced by sanctions, which are always a cruel and pointless idea. All sanctions do is the rich aren't impacted, everyday people are, and then people are forced into the arms of other people. So that's why sanctions on Russia, sanctions on Iran have failed with a capital F. And now the Chinese currency is actually more powerful than the US dollar. And I'm saying, I have to think, if he goes ahead with any of this stuff, it's going to be very, very bad for the US dollar. So let's have a look. I mean, he just thinks of them as acquisitions. What on earth? Because NATO will support Denmark if he tries anything with Greenland. Mexico. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico. We had the Bay of Pigs already, or he could have used that. You know, okay, so let's have a look how the rest of the world is reorganizing. Let's have a look here. Oh, my cards are upside down. Sorry. Well, yes. Okay, it's not all roses. There's the old joke, America has a cold and sneezes, and then all the rest of us get the flu. It's like that. Um, it's not happening immediately, but it is happening. So, the Empress, pregnant with possibilities. People are getting together, and you better believe it, the hotline between all these world leaders. Because let's face it, the world leaders know he's an absolute vicious, cretinous imbecile because they've met him. So they know. So now they're very motivated. They're having a bit of a struggle trusting each other. This can be the night of miscommunication and misunderstandings and news that isn't marvelous, right there. So, although on paper you can see these things advancing, it's hard to actually, these are emotional cards here coming up. The Hermit. So, the problem is, I hope I'm not raving too much here, but I've got so much to say after 4 or 5 days. People are torn between wanting to bond with each other to provide more protection and resistance to the excesses of the Yeti, right? They want to do that. But everywhere is dealing with their own far right who take this simplistic fascist path of isolationism. We're the best and we're the only ones. Everyone else is inferior. And isolationism, it's way too late for that. That ship sailed, right? Reagan set the boat off, but no one ever makes that connection. But the point is, whether it's Italy or the UK, we've got to leave the EU, bulldogs and the royals, and we love Britain. And now a fifth of the economy has evaporated, and it's going to get worse because isolationism doesn't work anymore. So they're dealing with all these contradictory feelings and politics, and it's really unclear. So I wish I had a better, clearer outcome, but they are working on it. But at the moment, it's really difficult. Everyone is going, what is he going to do next? Because he's so unpredictable. So, yeah. All right, now, before I go for today, I'm going to pull some cards for you. Um, oh, there's been a leak from the GOP of ways to cut 479 billion from Medicare. I'll put that on the next video. But this is for you. Now, we all need to stay strong. Do you remember that old saying? Um, I think it was Edmund Burke originally, who basically said, the only necessity for evil to triumph is good men to do nothing. Now, he was 1700s or something. Let's modernize that. The only thing needed for evil to triumph is good people to do nothing. Right? We've got to be aware of our own personal fears and not let it become a paralyzing emotion. You cannot give in to them this way. So we are blessed to be in a position that we've got each other, and we need to be part of the resistance. Because if they meet no resistance, this will just go on. But I think the resistance can be creative. It doesn't have to be pitchforks at dawn. So coming up with creative ways to resist and thrive. So here we go. These are some cards for you, advice from the universe. Let's have a look. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Now this is interesting. Be your own magician, right? You might not feel like it often, but you do have all the tools at your disposal, right? The wands, the swords, they're all there. The cups, the pentacles are all there. Find your tools and start using your tools because the transformation starts in your inner world. There's momentum to do this, right? And it's really necessary to do this. With the chariot, it's like the chariot. I've changed this image in one world from having no reins to pulling the reins together, the conscious, the subconscious, the material, the other, pulling it together and going forward after adversity. Now, you won't always feel like that. Oh, it's too overwhelming and it's just too much. And I work so hard and I haven't got time. We were all guilty of that one. I haven't got time to do my exercise. I haven't got time to do my inner work, for want of a better term, and so forth. We're rejecting the offer of the cup. Look after your body. And if you look after your body, Pentacles rules the body, the rest will follow. You know that old saying, your health is your wealth. It's a bit like that. You can have all the money in the world, but if you're not a whole person and you're not as healthy as you can be, that's all anyone can ask. Many people have long-term afflictions and short-term afflictions. It's not about that per se, it's being your best self. This is working on your wellness via health. So if you feel you've got a bit lazy, like this, or if you do a bit of exercise but not enough, again, be creative. It might be getting a friend to walk with you 3 times a week so you do it. It might be actually going to the pool and heated pool and doing some aqua aerobics that you've been meaning to do for 13 years and haven't. It might be any form. I was just speaking to a client this morning and we were talking about the value of dancing. When was the last time you had a good bop? Do some dancing. So lots of love, guys. Let me know what you're thinking and feeling in the comments. And in the meantime, I will put that link up of what Brits are saying about Elon. And I felt stronger and better because we're used to having people grovel to him. And people in other countries just aren't that smitten with Elon. Stay cool. Bye for now.